And 1, 2, 3. And it's Ken Kraetzer at the United States Military Academy for Sons of the American Legion Radio. I have a chance to talk to the Deputy Director of Admissions, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Viles. And Colonel, good to see you. It's a big day opening the Visitor Center. And this is where a lot of candidates thinking about West Point will visit to learn about the Academy and see if the Academy is right for them. Tell us a little bit about the application process, if you would, to West Point.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you being here today and talking to us about the admissions process. The admissions process begins the winter of your junior year in high school. So it's usually about 6 months prior to your senior year in high school that you'll begin the application process. You can open your file, and what we encourage you to do is compete to come in for the summer program. We call it the Summer Leadership Experience. And it opens the doors of West Point to applicants, allows them to see West Point up close, interact with cadets, and really experience everything West Point has to offer. So it's very insightful and provides a lot of information to our candidates to decide whether or not West Point's the right place for them. Then the application process really begins that senior year in high school when you start filling out the forms. So we will send out a second step kit is what we call it. But it's a series of forms that a candidate will fill out, and it helps them to give all the information that we look at, from test scores to leadership activities to what they participate in physically. So we get a good picture on what they are bringing to West Point from a whole candidate's perspective.
Very good, and we know it's important for a candidate to take a very strong high school background in coursework. We just visited the physics department here last week and saw how strong that program is for students, and also athletics. I know you like team captains as candidates. What are some of the qualifications? Some of the things a high school student should be doing to try to prepare to try to apply to the U.S. Military Academy?
So, great question. First and foremost is to do well in school. Make sure you're studying, make sure you're performing well in the classroom, make sure you're preparing for the standardized tests. Overall, 60% of your application score is based on academics. Another 30% is based on leadership activities. So we ask that you get involved, but not just get involved, step up and become a leader. Part of that is being involved in something you're passionate about, something you do well at, so that you can step up and be that leader your senior year in high school or possibly your junior year in high school. And that's what we're looking at here at West Point. Another aspect you touched on was the physical fitness part. And physical fitness is very important as a cadet. Every cadet is an athlete. Every cadet is expected to perform well physically. So preparing yourself physically throughout high school is also important. And we judge your application on 10% physically to determine where you are against your peers.
And I know you're drawing students from every state in the country. And tell us a little bit about how a candidate should approach their member of Congress or other ways to apply to West Point.
So every applicant has 4 nominations for which they can compete. One is from their representative, their local representative, 2 from each of their senators, and then the final one is from the Vice President of the United States. So they should apply for all 4 of those nominations. A nomination is required by law to come to West Point, so you have to earn that nomination. Most applications for nominations open beginning of their senior year, but I'd encourage all candidates to contact their congressman and their 2 senators at the end of their junior year in high school. And so that way they can get the information, get the packets that are required to compete for those nominations, and get those turned in a timely manner.
And you mentioned leadership development activities. One of them is sponsored by our organization, American Legion, the Boys State and Girls State programs leading to Girls State, Girls Nation and Boys Nation programs that a number of leaders have participated in. Just tell us a little bit about how you view high school students participating in programs like that.
So we hold the Boys State and Girls State activity very high in our leadership points. So when we look at leadership, we're looking for somebody that stands out against their peers. And the Boys State, Girls State, Boys Nation, Girls Nation allows those individuals to show just how competitive they are in their community, as well as against each other as they're invited to Boys Nation or Girls Nation. Every year we bring in individuals that have been selected for Boys Nation and Girls Nation into West Point. So it's very important to us to make sure we're bringing in that high quality leader in Boys State, Girls State, and the Boys Nation, Girls Nation allows us to really find out who those leaders are within the communities.
And Lieutenant Colonel Tim Viles, just got to ask you, tell us a little bit about the path of your career in the United States Army.
Well, I appreciate the question. Certainly, I came from Indiana, didn't know anything about the military, but my guidance counselor saw me as a good fit for West Point, and that was an important part of my journey into the military. And so I'd encourage everyone out there, if you see that young man or young woman who you think would be a good fit as an officer in our Army, to let them know about West Point, let them know about ROTC and the opportunities that are available. But that one mentorship activity from that counselor really brought me into the fold and allowed me to see West Point, to open my eyes to West Point. And once I saw it, this was the right place for me. I knew it. And I had to fight to get in here. I didn't get in the first year. I had to reapply and make myself more competitive. So I'd encourage all candidates out there that if they don't think they're good enough to get into West Point, think again. Look at what West Point offers. Look at what they need to do to be competitive, and go out there and work to get in, because it is possible. About a third of our incoming cadets all reapplied to get into West Point. So it's very competitive, but it can be done if you really want to be here.
One last question I want to ask you is about those serving in the United States Army who would be interested in going to West Point. I know you take in a number of soldiers from the field each year. Tell us a little bit about that process.
So we do. We go out and search through our soldiers to find the ones who are ready to become officers and who are a good fit for West Point. We run what we call a RACE program, Rapid Application Completion Exercise, and we go out to many of the active duty units throughout the nation, and we will go there for a day and bring in all soldiers who are interested in West Point and allow them in one day to go through the entire screening process, so we can determine whether or not they're a good fit for West Point and competitive. And then we can also provide feedback to them as to how they can make themselves more competitive to get into West Point.
Very good. Lieutenant Colonel Tim Viles is the director, a Deputy Director of Admissions here at the United States Military Academy. Thank you for your service, and great to visit and hear more about the applications process to the U.S. Military Academy.
Thank you so much, Ken. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all your listeners and their help, and certainly their service to the nation. Thank you.
I appreciate that. It's Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio at the United States Military Academy.